Four nurses at Emory Hospital made a TikTok about their icks about patients, and then they got fired. And there are a lot of opinions on the internet about them. So obviously, I have to throw mine into the ring. That is what we are going to be discussing tonight with all the things. Ready, set, let's go. All right, friends. So this topic I think is going to get there. I can see it going both ways. So just remember, as always, in the chat and in the comments, just keep things respectful. We are obviously very much allowed to disagree on this topic. I think I have some takes that are going to make a lot of people mad, and you are allowed to have takes that make people mad as long as you present them in a understanding and kind way. Okay. So, first, we're going to watch the TikTok video. Basically, if you have not been made aware of the situation, congratulations, because that means you're probably not on TikTok or the internet very much. And it's kind of a toxic place. So, good for you. But basically, there were four nurses that made a TikTok video. If you haven't seen the ick videos, it's where people complain about their coworkers or, in this case, patients. Yikes. Probably not the way to go about it. Or a family member or a loved one. And like they're supposed to be kind of like lighthearted and funny, usually, at least as the ones I've seen in like art. These ones, they just kind of talked about their patients. We'll get into why that's a bit problematic, but why I think the response from the hospital was honestly a little bit much, and how I think we can do a little bit better. And well, the statement from the hospital from Emory was it left a little bit to be desired, since it just shows you where their priorities are. It's interesting. All right, let's dive right in. Let me know if you can hear the video once I play it. And yes, I appreciate all your feedback in the comments. I know we have a couple labor and delivery people here. Mr. Midwife is here. He's not happy. Nicole Anderson is the postpartum nurse. I think healthcare TikToks in general, when we're talking about patients, is kind of it's a whole sphere. It's a whole sphere that we should discuss, and we will. All right, ready, set, let's go. We're going to watch the TikTok. If you don't want to see it, skip ahead. I think it's 57 seconds long, so just don't watch it. It's off of TikTok, so we can't watch it there. So I downloaded it. Hopefully it has sound. Let me know if you can hear it.
In for your induction, talking about, can I take a shower and eat?
What? My ick is when you ask me how much the baby weighs, and it's still in your hands. Dad comes outside and asks for a paternity test right outside the room door.
Saying you don't want any pain medicine, no epidural, but you are at an 8 out of 10 pain.
Pause. This is the chick that I don't know if anyone else had identifier of like exactly where they work. This girl's wearing an Emory hoodie. Come on, dude. Don't wear the hoodie of where you work.
And just a Cervidil, and you're still closed, fingertip.
When we've already told you to push the call light, but every 5 minutes, your
Excuse
family
me?
member coming
Excuse
at the
me?
front
Excuse me, can I
desk
have some water?
asking for something else.
Excuse me, can I have a blanket?
Another ick, when you're going room to room between one baby mama and your other baby mama.
Oh, no.
Ick.
Say that.
It's the unlimited trips to the nurse's station for me.
So
My
there was our video. Basically, they're not giving away any HIPAA information, right? They're mostly just kind of making fun of things that, if we're being really honest, like we've all made fun of, but probably not on the internet, right? I mean, sometimes we talk about them on here, but not on a more in like a let's chat in the break room type of conversation, and not something you want to be projecting in terms of having this go out public facing, because it makes it look like you're complaining at, well, you're poking fun and kind of like mocking people who are in a pretty vulnerable state right when they're having a baby. And it's probably just a better conversation for you to be having in like a break room or with your friends versus on the internet. So this, first thoughts, yikes. I would not have made this internet video and put it on the internet, right? Like I said, probably better for a break room. Emory did fire these nurses. They fired all four of them for making the TikTok. Someone had reported it, and they came and like told Emory about it. Emory said, we investigated it and we ended up firing them. We are going to read their statement a little later because it ties into sort of my feelings about how Emory reacted to it. Should they have made this video? No. I do not think so. Healthcare is not like other fields, right? Because these videos are all over the internet, where people are complaining about, like, Starbucks baristas are out there saying like, oh, when customers come in and do this, lawyers are doing it for their clients. I've seen just a ton, like airline like stewardesses and stuff, like them doing it, complaining about people doing things. The difference being here in healthcare is that someone is in a position, there's a power imbalance. When you're receiving healthcare, it's probably because you're having a baby, right? Which is usually okay, but still, like, there's a power imbalance there, right? Or you're sick. You are not picking your nurses, you're not picking your healthcare team, versus when you're going and getting a service, right? You're picking that. And that is something you are voluntarily doing. You are voluntarily going to Starbucks. You're voluntarily doing things. And since there is that power imbalance, it makes a relationship that is not normal, right? We are privy as healthcare providers to very personal times in people's lives. We need to let them be able to trust us and feel like whatever they say to us and present to us is not going to get plastered on the internet as the butt of a joke. And there, this kind of made it come across like you plastering this is coming across as the butt of a joke. And as a patient, like if I go into a patient mindset, that's not something that I want plastered on the internet. Because how bad would you feel if you were watching this and you're like, oh God, like I've done those things. And here they are talking about them as like icks. That's not great. Right. And you, so it kind of just comes back to in healthcare, like, and I've seen a lot of arguments and people were like, oh, well, everyone else gets to complain about like the people that are on the other side of the thing, except for people in healthcare. Right. And like, but that's true. Like healthcare is inherently different because we are dealing with people in vulnerable situations. Can you talk on the internet about your job in a way that's not like necessarily positive? Like, could you have turned this into, are we saying like you can't ever make TikToks about your job or social media? Obviously, no. How many social media people are there? Like, that is literally my job, is to talk about healthcare. But I try not, and I have not been perfect about this by any means. I try to, I've learned a lot about it. And as I've been a healthcare provider longer and longer, you don't make fun of the patients, right? You make fun of the system. You make fun of maybe the job itself, but you don't make fun of people who then you like, they're like how crappy would that be if you were like, oh my gosh, I have to go in and be taken care of by these nurses. Like, are they going to think these things of me? It's just, it's a mess. Is it fair? Like, if you're looking at it totally objectively, that nurses and healthcare people can't go on tangents? Like, I mean, like objectively, no, like, because we follow different rules than other professions. But is it normal for people to go into work and deal with people's most intimate moments? No, there's also that aspect of it. And since that's what we do, that's what we see people's most intimate moments. So there have to be slightly different rules for us. You know what I mean? This is why healthcare providers say that they could write endless books about patient encounters. And it's true, but we can't talk about those things because the things that our patients tell us, like, are the wildest things sometimes, but they are trusting you with that information, or they are trusting you with situations that they are expecting. Like when I'm at my sickest, when I'm at my worst, I expect you to still care for me and not blast it all over the internet. You know what I mean? So that's our first point. I'm going to go through some of the comments really quick and just see what you guys are saying, because again, I think it's a good like discourse to kind of have. We are going to talk about my tips for social media and how I approach that. Because like I have said, like full transparency, I have not always been good about this. When I first started social media, I was in NP school. I definitely had moments where people told me things and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to tell the internet about that. And on Instagram stories, I told a couple things and I had some really quick, thankfully, and honest feedback from people who were like, Liz, you cannot talk about that stuff on the internet. Like, I know it's a crazy story and you would get like obviously a lot of attention, but like that is not appropriate. And I was like, oh, wow, you are right. Like people shared that with me, not thinking I was going to share that with a bunch of random people on the internet. So let's approach it that way. So no, I do not think this situation in general was appropriate. Should you go and air your grievances out on TikTok in this way? No, this is a conversation you have with your friends where other people hopefully will not find out about it, where we are careful we aren't talking too loud in the hallway for patients to overhear. We have talked on this channel before about that, just like being conscious of what you are saying outside in hallways so that patients don't overhear, because it sounds really inhumane a lot if we're like, oh, 32, like the like person in bed 32 is blah blah blah, and like they're constantly like they're driving me crazy and yada yada. Like, people have ears, guys, and they can hear you. Okay, so Will C says, I'm not going to act like I haven't thought these things before, because I have, and I think a lot of us have, right? It's normal to get annoyed at your job. This is also a weird added layer to this, right? Is because there was a weird way to say there is this public perception sometimes that nurses are just supposed to take it all and be like, I love everything about this, when in reality, like, this is like, some of those behaviors I'm sure are annoying if you see it day in day out. But there's a huge difference between thinking it and saying these things amongst colleagues, making versus making a TikTok that anyone can see. Yes, because you don't want your patients to see something like this. You have very different conversations with people in the break room versus out of it. Nate said, sure, it's unprofessional, but I don't think the nurses deserve to lose their jobs. I agree. More on that later. They looked young, possibly new grads. This should have been a learning experience for them rather than a punishment. Some of them, I would even say, didn't look like new grads, and that unit lost a lot of really great nurses that day, which is never good. Jazzy Nurse says, hey friends, nurse of all trades here. We have all felt annoyed with things like this. Not everything should be put online. Exactly. I went to the Reddit forum because I wanted to see what the Reddit was saying about it. And people were like, literally, this is why Reddit exists, because it's anonymous. This is why Reddit exists. I was like, yeah, that's actually very, very true. And let's see, filming also at work. We'll talk about that. I saw some comments on that. Mr. Midwife says, I have experienced every one of these situations that they're talking about. And yes, we could chat about it in a break room, complain about it each other, but we don't publish it on social media. Exactly. That doesn't make people feel like super safe. Like, they're walking into an environment that they're already probably scared about. Having a baby, scary. I would say any hospital situation, scary. You're either usually in the hospital because you are, again, having a baby, or you are very sick, and you do not want to think in the back of your mind, like, oh, could this person actually be, judging me in that way for this thing? Not in any way, shape, or form ideal. Also, Nikki Pierre, thanks for becoming a member. I appreciate you. I'll see you over on the Discord where we have all the chats. There we go. There's the button. I'm doing this solo today, friends. I don't have a Rachel. So bear with me. I have to do all the buttons and find all the comments by myself. Will C said, saw an interesting take on a labor and delivery Facebook group, wondering if the race of the nurses had anything to do with the outrage or the response. I have seen something like that, because, they went through and they showed, it wasn't the sassy NP. There was someone had made a reel, and it was basically showing like a whole bunch of basically like white nurses and dental assistants, everything, and saying like none of these people got reported for the TikToks they made. It very well could be having to do with the fact that we had several Black nurses on this reel. That would not shock me. I do think, however, though, a lot of this has to do with the fact that it's Emory, and Emory is a huge hospital, like well known at least. But you guys can let me know what you think in the chat about that. I certainly think that would make it more likely that they would report it, right? Versus like pushing it under the rug. The Jazzy Nurse says, I don't think it was a race thing. I think it was an Emory image issue. I tend to agree, but again, I am very open to whatever you think. I think maybe it could have had to do with like the harshness of the punishment or how they came down on it. I wish I could remember who it was. He showed a bunch of different TikToks of all sorts of different nurses doing like ick videos. I didn't watch all the ick videos. I don't know if they were the same type. Were they complaining about patients versus I've seen a ton of healthcare ones complaining about each other, like ER versus ICU icks, things like that, where they are targeting each other, which I think is okay, because you're not attacking a population that is in a vulnerable state to you, right? Because as healthcare providers, we always are in a position of power over patients, just because when you were in the hospital, you were in a vulnerable state, and attacking down is never okay. right? When you are a healthcare provider of someone else, they are coming to you for help and you have the power. You can't attack down. You can like go laterally and make fun of people. You can attack the institution, but going down is never okay. Exactly. Mr. Midwife said, I'm going to touch, like, especially in labor and delivery, you're touching someone in very intimate places, and then I'm going to go outside of your room and make fun of you. Not ideal. And who said, Kate, thanks for being here. Hello. And if you do like the video, do give it a like. It tells YouTube gods that you like the conversations and want other people to see it. And I appreciate you. Let me go through and see. On the other hand, yes. Jazzy had said like I think you said they didn't need to be fired, but yeah, you'd be pissed if they if you're the director of nursing and someone did this. Also, congrats on your new job. That's very exciting. Let's see. Yeah, TikTok. Nikki Pierce is currently studying for med surge. Too final and cringe when I see these TikToks. Yeah, TikTok can be really cringy. My TikTok is all filled with crafts. It's great. I love it. Montana Gal, what did they say? I didn't see the video. It's at the very beginning. Basically, they were just talking about annoying things that they thought patients did. And yeah. Emory issue. Mr. Midwife says he thinks it was an Emory issue having to do with like Emory's a big teaching hospital. They have a big image to upkeep. So when this happened and the TikTok was viral, like they kind of probably felt like they had to address it. And yeah. Em said there was a series of on TV where an emergency department nurse was fired for posting a photo of a messy emergency bay after a patient expired. The bay was empty except for the mess left behind. She was fired. Yeah, they fire nurses a lot for things, as we are going to discuss. Actually, we can just talk about it now. I think firing them was I don't see why we had to fire the nurses, if we're being totally honest. Was this bad? Yes, this was bad. Should they have done this? No. However, why couldn't we have turned this into hey, this is really wrong. And in the age of social media, you're going to probably like be tempted to post things about this online. Let's make this a learning experience, right? Where people maybe have to come out and have an apology, where you come forward and say, hey, these are not our values as a company. We don't want people to feel this way whatsoever. We have made these steps. We are educating all of our staff that this is never okay. This is never acceptable, yada, yada, yada. Had anything to, I don't know, could you have the conversation and say, like, I don't think these nurses are bad nurses. I think they're probably burned out and just like frustrated about, all sorts of stuff. And they made a stupid decision, right? And like I had said, I made stupid choices in my I probably still make stupid choices in social media. I make stupid choices in my life all the time. And is the immediate reaction to fire people really that wise? Because now you're lacking 4 labor and delivery nurses. They have already had to post travel contracts for all these people. So now the unit is less safe, right? Some of those people probably had great nursing experience and were really good nurses on that unit. And now you're lacking that. You're going to have to fill the spot with travelers. I just don't know if in the end, from a patient's perspective, like safety perspective, which one was the better choice, right? And I want to look really quick and show you. So let me know here. I'm going to put a poll up. Do you think, and like I said, feel free to disagree with me. That's totally fine. Do you think, oh, that's not a poll. That's a comment. Start a poll. That's what I'd like. Do you think the nurses should have been fired? I just don't know when we got to the point where everything was like immediately fired, like done. There's no second chance. There's nothing here. Punishment. Exactly. Post another TikTok. I'm sorry. And I was a doofus. Exactly. Literally, like, I am sorry. I should not have done that. I realized the implication of that was it probably came off like we didn't care and we didn't here's, I am sorry. No, like if, ands, or buts, just I'm sorry. And the institution doing the same thing. Now, so now the hospitals, like I said, down 4 nurses. And I was kind of like, like, okay, whatever. Like that stinks. That does make it less safe. It feels like there could be a different way to go about this. than maybe just immediately firing people. And then let's look at the article. Then I read their statement and I got mad. Atlanta, so this is just an article from the New York Post. Atlanta nurses who mocked expectant moms in a TikTok video got fired from Emory Hospital. They're no longer in labor. A quartet of Atlanta nurses have been fired for recording a viral TikTok of them grousing about the irritating habits of patients they're tasked with helping and their families. We already told you to push the call. Okay, it just goes through. We already watched the video. And yada yada. The delivery room derision drew a torrent of outrage and concern from online observers, many of whom said the nurses should not be denouncing those who they're meant to be caring for. Like we talked about, it's probably not good to talk crap about and poke fun at people who are in a position of where you are not on the same playing field, right? Imagine saying these things to women at their most vulnerable moments in their lives. Yeah, that's crappy. They had their employment terminated. This is the statement from Emory. A statement to our community. Emory Healthcare is committed to providing empathetic, high quality care to our community, and our patients come first. Yes. So like, why couldn't we just say like, this could be an apology? But again, we're aware of TikTok videos that included disrespectful and unprofessional comments about maternity patients at Emory University Hospital Midtown. We have investigated the situation and taken appropriate actions with the former employees saying that they were fired, responsible for the video. The video does not represent our commitment to the patient and family-centered care and falls short of the values and standards we expect of every member of our team to hold and demonstrate. Very fair. You could have said all of that in an apology without firing someone, I think, because at no time should our patients ever feel they're not being treated with care and respect. Agreed. Every patient at Emory Healthcare deserves to be cared for by compassionate, experienced team in a comfortable and safe environment. Very much agree. I do not disagree with any of that. I do not disagree with that they were in the wrong. The thing that I think is weird there is, do they think the same thing for their nurses? Do they think their nurses deserve to be cared for by a compassionate and experienced team in a comfortable and safe environment? Now, I don't know anything about Emory. I'm just basing this on my experience at other healthcare institutions where nurses did not get fired for bullying. And there was brutal bullying. Brutal, like I have seen and heard from all of you about absolutely awful bullying from other nurses, from your managers, bullying from the administration. You don't get fired for that. They don't immediately fire those people. They sweep it under the rug because it's not patient facing. Patients are the ones who have the power here they brought this to Emory and said, this is not okay. And Emory said, that's right, you're fired. I have seen and heard from all of you countless times of healthcare providers screaming at nurses for not doing things or doing something wrong, ridiculing them in public, like in front of people. I have been screamed at in hallways many times by healthcare providers who were not happy with, the fact that I couldn't do something because I did not have enough time. And they didn't get fired immediately. But again, that was because they were doing it to nurses, not to patients. But it was because it was to nurses. So nurses, it seems like, don't deserve a compassionate healthcare experience. And they don't necessarily, and I don't know, again, about Emory, but hospitals don't fire patients when patients come through and hit you over the head with an IV pole and give you a concussion and you're bleeding all over and you still have to work because there's literally no one else to replace you. Personal story time. They don't say anything when the patient berates you and screams at you and calls you every name in the book and spits and throws poop in your eye. They don't get rid of those patients. They don't say you can't be here because this nurse deserves to work in a comfortable and safe environment. Hospitals do not care about nurses, right? In this, that's what makes me mad here is they don't fire anyone else that quickly. We see who gets the second chances here, right? It's the management, it's patients, and it's the healthcare providers, but it doesn't seem to be the nurses that ever get a second chance where they could come out and say, hey, this was stupid. And I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. That was bad. Everyone else gets to say that. The managers get to come out and say, hey, probably shouldn't have berated you like that. Healthcare providers get to come by and be like, oh yeah, Shouldn't have called you a shithead. I'm sorry in front of everyone you know. That was probably bad. And patients, they don't have to say sorry at all. The hospital's just like, well, it's fine. We got your money. So that's just interesting to me. And I would love to see nurses get second chances the way that other people in healthcare get second chances. But that's just my thought on that. You guys can let me know what you think in the comments. I don't think they necessarily should have been fired as long as they were willing to come forward and, say, hey, I screwed up. I really did bad. I'm sorry. So yeah, now they have travel nurses. They're short staffed. It's a lot. Let's talk really briefly about Rosa said I agree nurses are easily dismissed and not defended. Marika said I think a lot of this is because the attention on the nurses. I do understand that it would be really hard to recognize that nurse when I'm going in for care. Oh yeah, it definitely would be. But like at the end, like, and that's where it comes back to like patient safety though too. What is more unsafe for you? And if they came forward and did a public apology, or could you just ask for a different nurse? Be like, I saw your crappy TikTok. I don't want you to be my nurse. You know what I mean? Like, and see, I'm not in any way endorsing that this was okay, but just could we have gone about it a different way where now you're short staffed, even more short staffed than you probably already were. And now you have a bunch of travel nurses, which is eating into your budget even more. I don't know. Cam says, I remember a lady who wore a recorder in her hair while being operated on by her surgeon, and we're all talking horribly about her. Yeah, that's crappy. And those people, I don't know, did they get fired? But yeah, this is probably a hot take. I don't know. This happens all the time. And I just feel like this was making a weird statement about these nurses when, like, if we're being honest, like these conversations happen all the time. Right. And maybe the public doesn't know that. But it's just like any business where these conversations do happen all the time. Does that make it right? No, but they happen all the time. M says, in my opinion, may not be popular, but if I posted something like that, I would expect to be fired. Yeah. And a lot of people think that they should have expected to be fired. That was just my opinion. And they are allowed to be fired. Emory has in their like Nate said, I'm sure Emory will have strict rules about phones and social media in the break room from now on. I'm sure they already had them, and that's how they were able to get fired, is they were able to say, hey, you were not allowed to do any social media here, film anything, blah, 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 blah. Or were they? The rules were pretty informal and unstated and unenforced before. Well, there you go. That's interesting. I figured that they probably had strict rules and they violated them and they were able to be like, bye, like, we do not tolerate this at all. This is gone. So make sure that at I would just don't film at work, friends. Again, I have definitely filmed at work many, many eons ago. I didn't post anything until I did not work there anymore, but I did. And now they're gone. But don't do that. Don't be me. Don't do that. Mika says, Georgia's an at-will state, no need for a specific policy. Oh, so you can just fire him. You don't really need a reason. Got it. Jazzy Nurse says definitely a fireable offense. Just don't do it. Yeah. So, like I said, everyone is going to have a different opinion about this, and you're more than welcome to have yours. That was just mine, but a good thing to kind of have a conversation around about, I think, and just kind of see where different people are at with it. But definitely, bottom line, don't record things at work. Don't make TikToks at work. Don't do the things at work. And when you do them at home, here is my mini Liz lesson, okay, on how to do the social medias without getting fired or taking advantage of patients, which is hopefully not your intent. I don't think that, I don't think these nurses went out and were like, I'm going to like exploit the power imbalance between me and my patients. I think they were annoyed, like just like, oh, this will be funny, but forgot that like TikTok shows your videos to people other than healthcare workers, which is not good. Not good. Kate said, like, her institution says it's made very clear, don't take pics and do not film. I think a lot of places have moved to that, which seems, that seems fairly wise. Let's see what our poll says. I'll give you a minute. Actually, go back and say in the poll, do you think they should have been fired or not? And then you can let us know in the comments or the chat. Let the Academy know. Academy chat, you are the Academy. of the Fellows of the American Academy of Nursing Influencers, which we have started. We had that on our Friday chat last time because everyone had their names with like, it spells out Fanny, which is also just very funny. And everyone's like, what is that? That's what it is. We came up with that at the end of a Friday stream where we just kind of go off the rails. We have our own, I keep wanting to think it's like federation. It's not what it is. It's fellow. Okay. Don'ts or do's of social media. All right. If you guys have any that you want to add, please let me know. Do not wear anything identifying on your body. Or do not let it be known. Do not have it anywhere where you work. Okay. If you are going to be talking about work like things, don't say where you work. Don't promote it anywhere. Don't wear shirts that are from there. The one person was wearing like a little jacket thing that said Emory on it. Bad choice. They all had their badges like flipped around, but on her jacket, you could see it said Emory. Don't do that. Don't tell people where you work. Don't ever say it. Don't film on the premises anywhere around it. Film like when you're at home. Okay. Like, Dr. What is it? Glaucoma Flocken or whatever. He does great ones. If he's at work, he's in like a basement alley of the hospital. So you don't know where it is. Don't film at work. Just don't. I feel like we used to kind of be able to get away with that a little bit. The tides are changing, my friends. Don't film at work. No. Talk about your patients. If you're going to talk about a situation regarding a patient online, like say you are doing more educational posts, right? Like when I was working as a family nurse practitioner, I would sometimes present patient cases as a learning experience. I would change information about them. So they're change their age, change their sex, change something about it. So it made it unidentifiable, right? We took away all the HIPAA things, but also I pretended whenever I talked about it that patient, I talked about it like I would if I was doing bedside report, right? So the conversation was respectful. It was said in a very objective way. And that's just if you're doing like case study type things, if you are talking about, or like a stressful situation you saw at work, sometimes you want to say, hey, I was at work and my shift was really hard and it was because of this. Just talk about it as if any information you do give, which should be very, very vague and impossible to pin down which patient or anything it was. Because again, remove all the patient identifiers. But when you're talking about it, only say things that in your imaginary head, you're presenting report on this person and you're there in the bedroom, you're there in their room giving report at the bedside, things you would say in their presence. This is a 17-year-old female who came in with, she has heart failure. I worked on like peds cards. So like if I was doing a teaching post, it'd be like that. Worked on heart failure. No, she is now on, like a milrinone drip, awaiting heart transplant. If there are several people at your hospital, like do not give away situations like that in general, like awaiting heart transplant, because how many people are awaiting a heart transplant? Always assume everyone knows where you work, even though you hit it. Don't say details like awaiting a heart transplant, because then we can narrow it down probably to who is there. So instead, you would just say like in heart failure and provide no additional information. Okay. Do not ever give an identifier if it's going to seriously narrow down the population of who you could be talking about. Okay. And then pretend they're doing a bedside report. Do not ever, ever, ever make it traceable. If you're telling a story that is like, if you're doing a story, just do it carefully, but don't even ever make it remotely traceable. Like I said, change 2 or 3 facts, if not 4, about the whole situation. So then you're kind of just like almost making up a situation that's like sort of loosely based on reality. And those are best done in teaching points, because otherwise then it's just a made up story, right? And what's the point of that? And if you are on healthcare and you have not yet started your healthcare journey, I cannot recommend making a fake name and using that. I know that kind of goes into the whole like credentials and liability type of thing where people are like, oh, you can't prove like who you really are. Yeah, that's a problem. But personally, I have had so many. I don't share my name, my last name on the internet. I wish I had just, I don't know, picked a totally different name, and not gone by Liz at all and gone, I don't know, made up a different one so that people would not have any idea, because people did find out my name. I have been reported to the Board of Nursing more times than I can count. I constantly have to call them and like deflect all these charges. I have had people send me my address, just to prove that they know I have it. And they're like, well, if you don't, blah, 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 do this, I'm going to like spread um, address out on the internet and like all these crazy things. So just make up a fake name. Okay. Exactly. Nurse Still. Oh, just pick something completely different. Just completely different. And just be careful. Don't do any of those things. If you guys have other tips, let me know. But yeah. Yeah. That's where I fall on that. So yeah, that's kind of the rundown of it. Now I thought we could just, I'm really proud of myself. That was 34 minutes. We got it all done in 34 minutes. Now we can just kind of like chat about it. I'll go through some comments. We can have some just general chit chat and just discuss. What do you guys think? Mr. Midwife, I'm curious to hear if you have more thoughts on it. Yeah, what all the things. Um, Erica F says, as a teacher, other teachers talk about students that have a lot of behavioral issues often, but I would never post about it online. The parents would be pissed. Yes. I feel like teaching kind of goes exactly into this, where teaching is a service that everyone has a right to, just like kind of with healthcare. Like, well, you don't have a right to it here, but different story for a different day. You don't get to pick your teacher. You don't get to pick your healthcare provider in terms of like when you're going to the hospital, right? So there is, and you need those services. So there is inherently a power imbalance there. So just like it would be crappy for your teacher to go and share behaviors that were in their class, because that's kind of a intimate situation. It's crappy for healthcare workers to share this. But yeah, no, that's where I am. And AdCempt, yes. What do you call the fanny gathering? It is the fanny pack. The group. We are the fanny pack. Yes. You too can become a member of the fanny pack if you are a member of the academy, which is basically just the live chat. Welcome. Subscribe. Be here. It's a great time. Yeah, vent to a trusted colleague in private. Rosa said, nurses at my hospital were called on the carpet about posting pictures of them drinking after work with their work badges showing. That doesn't shock me. How dare you? As evil little nurses, you're supposed to go home and, I don't know, pray and not ever say anything mean about anyone ever, obviously. But yeah, just just take your badge off. If you go out and do fun things after, put a coat on. If you have to have the embroidered scrubs. Yeah, just don't give them a reason to find you, because as we learned, apparently nurses are the scapegoats for everything now, which is stupid. Sky says, yeah, I think it was dumb to fire them. There are other people who have done way worse and are entitled to their opinions and feelings as long as they aren't directly impacting the patients. See, that's what really gets me, is I'm like, I can think of a lot of other things that should be way more fireable, like people being, almost killing, like causing all sorts of bodily harm that like really was problematic. But nothing happens to those people. Just this. Nate says, Emory School of Nursing says that students should not even walk in public wearing Emory scrubs. Cover the logo. A little extreme, in my opinion, but they're very concerned about keeping up a certain image. Wow. Okay. So when you have that going, yeah, that's how, don't exist. Okay. Do not ever let anyone see you going to the bathroom in those scrubs. We cannot let them know that we let you do that. Okay. They cannot know that we let you pee. God forbid you're doing the other thing. We can't let them know. Don't let them know. Don't wear the scrubs. Take them off. That gives me that vibes. They would certainly not want to see you in pictures in a bar. Mr. Midwife says nurses and providers need to be able to talk it out. We need to be able to vent somewhere to someone. We may even share stories, swap war stories. Yes, very, very normal. But never publish it on social media. Yes. Agree. That's not ever going to get anything anywhere. Even though sometimes the twisted parts of us are like, but if we did, I would make so much money. We could sell so many books, but no, that's not fair. There is a power imbalance there. People need to be able to feel like they have someone that they trust, that they can go in and not have to worry about being annoying when you're like that your nurse is going to, post it on social media. That's just crappy. That's just crappy. Michaela said social media has been around since the early 2000s. It should be a well known fact by now not to post anything online that could be considered risky. Everything on the internet is forever. Yes. I think some people just forget how big the internet is and they see the trends, especially like on TikTok. It gets very easy. And especially with this, there were countless other TikToks who did the exact same thing. Icks about um patients who come in, like icks. I saw one about icks about urgent care, icks about I saw primary care provide like offices doing ones about patients. I saw countless ones. This one happened to be like brought to the attention of Emory, who, as Nate has said, is very, very particular about their image. And it kind of went viral and it came to the forefront and it got all the attention. So this, I can see why people make them because they see, oh, like everyone else is doing it and this seems fine. It's not the mentality to have. Not the mentality to have here. Not the one we want you to have. Fuzzy Spiral says the video wasn't even funny. It was just mean and done at work. Yeah, it wasn't like, I think it wasn't funny because it was punching down, right? If you were making fun of like the ones that I enjoy the most of those are the ones where it's like usually practice, like private practice or something, or the colleagues are like giving their icks about each other. And you can tell it's kind of in like a playful way, right? They're, making like the physician who owns the practice or whatever. I've seen a lot of them where he or she have all their employees give their icks about them. Funny. You're punching laterally, right? Like figuratively. It's not punching down. It's never funny when it's punching down. It's kind of just like, oh, like maybe with obviously your big feelings about this, you could have made an educational post about, hey, when you come in, this is why we ask you to, you could have made these in a more educational way. If you want to get that point across, great, that's fine. When you come in and you ring the call bell, like actually, like if you come up to the station, like it's actually more efficient if you just ring your call light, blah, 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 whatever you want to say, but don't make fun of anyone. Don't say anything. Hey, here's why you can't eat when you come in for an induction, or like why that's, not my priority. Hey, did you know we actually wait to weigh babies until you have had your skin to skin time, because skin to skin is so important. Whatever it is, making it an educational point, making it something that you're like making fun of. Ooh. And yeah, it saddens me because this comes off as insensitive and judgmental. Yeah. And I think we sometimes forget how it sounds too, if we're being honest, because the conversations that we have with each other, right, in healthcare are often, if they're heard by the wrong ears, insensitive and judgmental, like if we're just being honest. And that's why we don't have them in public, right? That's where we're having them behind closed doors. Could we probably all work on that? Yes. But being very honest, have we all had those conversations where we're like, I am going, if the patient at 52 does not stop doing this, or their family member doesn't do this, like I may strangle them. Like, yes, we've all done that. But we don't do it on the internet. Point. Michaela said, I find it ironic that these nurses were fired for this, but other nurses aren't fired for no showing, no calling, not doing their job, bullying other nurses, management, yelling staff. It just seems fishy to me. That was my point and tangent earlier. Was it seems like where nurses don't get second chances really for this when it's public facing and when the public knows about it, when it's a PR issue. But when it's an internal thing, like, and the public doesn't see it, like bullying or patient violence or providers being mean to you or the administration being mean to you, suddenly they don't really care about that. No one gets fired. Montana Gal says, sounds kind of mean to make fun of patients, but nurses are under severe stress, 12 hours of work without break, no emotional support. I think burnout had a lot to do with this. I totally agree. I don't think these are people who are like going into work every day and like loving their job and feeling super rewarded by it. I think it's probably like a lot of nurses, are just burned out and they made a stupid choice because they were burned out and didn't think about it clearly. Jazzy Nurse said, I really think if the nurse's jacket wasn't showing, they wouldn't have been found out. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, someone might have recognized the unit, but having that jacket was definitely not helpful. That definitely gave it away and made it very, very easy. You couldn't brush it under the rug and be like, it's not Emory. Like, they don't work here. Yeah, her jacket said it. Will C says, I've heard Starbucks is really strict about image too and will fire partners for any videos made at work. A lot of companies are super strict about this. Target, I know I worked very briefly at Target. I worked for a very long time at the Cheesecake Factory. They were very strict, like way more strict than their policy was way more hardcore than the healthcare job I went to after that, which had a more like kind of like up in the air, like, that was back in the day when they were like, just say like, no, none of these views are my own. And like, don't like do HIPAA. I don't think they thought we would be like, that was 10 years ago when I was first a bedside nurse and like people weren't really social mediaing then. But yeah, even back then when social media was not huge, like the Cheesecake Factory and Target were like, no. So I can only imagine now. A lot of places have very strict policies on that. PhD nurse practitioner said, I think the behavior is deplorable. Don't film yourself being an ass. I'm a nursing professor and this behavior is cruel. Yeah, it was not a good look. Stick to the nurse memes. Yeah. And like I said, punch sideways, not relative. Please don't punch your coworkers. But you know what I mean? Who said Kate? Thanks for being my hype woman. I appreciate you. Melissa said, I feel like it could be used as a learning experience. For example, the mom who was refusing pain meds, they could have said, okay, it's okay to ask for pain meds. Exactly. I really think a lot of these things, this was coming out of frustration. These could have been really good learning points, right? This could have been a great thing to say, hey, when you come in for your induction, like, here's what this is, here's what Cervidil does, right? Because she mentions like she flies through all this stuff, like that's going to slowly dilate your cervix. This is usually when we typically give epidurals. Like, I don't even know, like, when do you probably can't get an epidural if you weren't dilated at all, but maybe you can. I don't know. That would be a great topic to make one on versus making fun of people who, I mean, I don't know. And I've worked in healthcare a long time. So other people probably really don't know. Carla said it's really about optics in the public. Ding, ding, ding. I used to be a flight attendant. Walking to my gate, stopped briefly at the entrance to a bar to talk to someone. Passengers only saw me walking away, so I was replaced. Are you kidding me? Oh, that's stupid. I'm sorry. I hope you like your job more now. That's silly. Treat Haroon said, treat the patients the way you want your family member to be treated. How would you feel it was your mom or dad being recorded and made fun of? Yeah. Not a good look. Fuzzy Spiral says those educational points is how they can redeem themselves in my eyes. Yeah. I wish they had done something more like that and been like, hey, clearly this didn't come across well. Like, that was a mistake. We should not have done that. That was very insensitive. Admit fault without saying, oh, but I'm so burnt out, or I didn't think it would do that. Like, no buts. And then say, in the future, when we talk about this stuff, we're going to do it this way. Smiling Joe says, Emory barely pays anyway, so they're in greener pastures. There you go. I think I heard that some of them did already get different jobs. I mean, the nursing, it's the market for nurses. So, but still, that stinks for that unit that's now way under, they lost some really great nurses. If we're being honest, I think it really sucks for a lot of the patients that are on that unit because a couple of the nurses were Black, and if you were a patient there and you were Black, you would have had a nurse that, like, you could relate to and look to, but maybe that also made it more harmful that it was coming out of their mouths, like what they were saying. So I don't know, but I think you lost a lot of good nurses with a lot of experience. And that might have been a better thing for patients to have versus taking it away and firing them. I know, like, sometimes it would be comforting to see someone, especially in a population where you're more at risk of having something bad happen to you. Like, you die more often, right, in this country, if you're Black and having babies, right? So like, that might have been more comforting to feel like, oh, I would have been heard more, and to fire people, like, I don't know. It just is all it makes me sad. Yeah, women in labor are afraid. Yeah. And I mean, this definitely doesn't help with it. So it's definitely very nuanced. Um, and I agree, JB. Like, you wouldn't want those people talking about you like that, but to fire them, that's just where I'm like, I don't know. I think we could have done something a little bit differently, and they should have shared their it privately. You're right. Let me see. M says, who knows how many warnings Emory doled out before taking this action. They were used as an example. Yeah, that's true. They probably did trot them out there as an example. So they were like, don't do this. Fuzzy Spiral says, as a Black nurse, the Black nurses in that video really disappointed me because they're so needed, especially in a city with a high Black population in Atlanta. Yeah. And that's very, very fair. Because at the same time of having that comfort of like seeing someone like who you can relate to, how hurtful would that be to also see someone that you can relate to saying those things? Right. So that's a really good point too, on the flip side of it, of, why they maybe should have been fired. And so that's a very good, that's a good flip side of it. Like I said, not in any way, shape, or form, black or white, but yeah. Ultraviolet said, except there's nurses going viral on TikTok for mocking patients who request pain medication, judging with their complex needs, etc. For sure. There is a whole very yucky side of TikTok where people are very, very cruel and making fun of a lot of people. And that is why my TikTok is mostly filled with people doing crafts and animals. Yeah. Yeah. Emory, Emory nurses are now going to bring a poncho when they go on their lunch break. I mean, that seems excessive, but also at the same time, yikes. The TikTok video was taken down. I think she deleted her account, maybe. But yes, it is down. I saw it reposted, and that's how I got the screen share of it, because I figured I was going to want to talk about it. And so I snagged it. I don't know if it's still up, like, anywhere. Let me see. This was there was a hospital that we talked about, well, even more now that AMC is closed. AMC is another hospital in Atlanta. Yeah. I think they closed their emergency department. I'm not sure if they closed their other units, but yeah. Nutella said hospitals should ban social media posting by healthcare workers. I think they did. I think that's why they got fired. But you can't, how are you going to stop them? You know what I mean? Like, it's still up to people to do it. I think they should be very clear on their policies. I think this would have been a good thing to go over. Hopefully they have gone over it with absolutely everyone of, this is what's okay. This is not what's okay. Here's our expectations. And if they have expectations, like apparently Emory does, make it very clear. Like, like Sienna said, you should be wearing a poncho when you leave. We do not want to see you doing absolutely anything. And yeah, you make it just very, very clear, because any kind of, when there's gray area, yikes. I don't think there was gray area here. This was a pretty bold oopsies. Let's not do that. But okay, let me go back and see if I missed anything. Yeah, yikes. I'm sorry you got harassed. Oh, well, I feel like that comes with the territory, doesn't it? Which is sad. It's not something that we should be able to laugh about and be like, oh, it comes with the job. But, I was certainly not the only one to experience that. And certainly not the only one whose hospital said, meh, oh, well, it's fine. Fuzzy Spiral says the general population don't know what an induction is now, but now perceive it as an ick to the people caring for them. Exactly. So it's kind of the, and I think it probably, yeah. Now you're probably worried too, like, oh, should I even say it's painful, even if it is, which, I think especially, I mean, this kind of goes across all healthcare, right? Whenever we start talking about, especially bringing in, it was one thing to talk about having them bring blankets and yada yada, but now when we start bringing pain into it, it's kind of like all the other TikToks where you are making fun of pain, especially in labor delivery. This is very sensitive because we know that this is a population where a lot of times pain is ignored, particularly if you are a member of the BIPOC community, right? If you're Black, we know especially that pain is ignored. Warning signs are ignored because it's blown off. How scary would that then be if your nurse is like making a funny TikTok about like, oh, you said you were so uncomfortable and in so much pain. Haha, we weren't even like that far along with the induction yet. Now you're really not going to say anything. And that's going to just add to the situation and of it already being more dangerous for you, right? Yikes. Sandra Reyes said, I don't really think they should ban simply because it can be used as an educational tool. Some people just need to use social media responsibly. Yeah, I don't think you could like ban it, say like you can't make social media on this at all, but like, should you do it at work? Maybe not. I do think it would be genius for hospitals to have social media, right? To have someone on your units who make educational posts that are then approved by the hospital, right? On these types of things, because education in this country on healthcare things is horrific. And we hide the hospital, right? That's another thing. Like we act like this hospital, like nothing, the hospitals glaze over everything, like nothing ever goes wrong here. This is all perfect, under the rug, smooth sailing, nothing bad, nothing to see here. We're not short staffed. We're great. Everything's wonderful. I would love to see hospitals be more transparent with that and talk about it in a way that is like treat patients like they can handle the truth, which is we are in a bit of a healthcare crisis at the moment because people of not being able to afford care, we don't like nurses are like just over it. Like we're in a bit of a pickle. Why are we pretending that we're not? It would be nice if hospitals just came out and made a TikTok about that and said, hey, here's the situation. Here's what we're doing about it. And we're more transparent. They will never do that ever, but in my dream world, there we go. Emory Decatur Hospital. I don't know. That sounded fancy though. Decatur. Kind of sounds like something you would wear in a boudoir photo shoot. Hospital L&D is mostly staffed by Black nurses for what it's worth. This video was at Midtown in Atlanta. Unit staffing can be very segregated. Well, that's crappy that it's what, like you can get hired here, but not there. Oh, I hate all of that. I'm glad that it wasn't a situation where it was like, oh, look, we had 3 people that people could identify with and now they're gone. I'm glad there are others, but I just wish we could, why does it have to be you can work here if you look like this and then you can work here if you look like this? Because I'm sorry, it's like that world. I'm sorry. Or beat you, or OR nurses beat you to the poncho idea by wearing cover gowns to go smoke. They do wear. You could go grab, little like scrub thing from the OR bins that then they yell at you for. They're like, "Where did you get those?" You're like, "I'm sorry." Lauren Musso said not to defend the nurses, but I wonder if they normalize their judgy behavior because it's so rampant in nursing culture. This is an interesting point to each other, and this translates to patient care feeling towards the patient. That's interesting because we do tolerate a lot of bullying, like I said, amongst each other. And the whole culture can just kind of be very toxic. Yeah. And I don't know, maybe I feel like how could you kind of forget that patients are not your coworkers? And you probably shouldn't do that anyway, but here we are. There we go. Mr. Midwife, excellent point. Exactly. Even just breaking down topics like induction, starting the labor cost, start your labor for you because your body is not doing it. Here's what induction is rather than like making fun of it. Adchem says nurses get abused, YouTubers get stalked. Liz gets the best of both worlds. Yeah. Don't become a nursing YouTuber. But if you do just call your board of nursing. I found that very helpful this time around. When I moved to Pennsylvania, I just called them immediately. I'm like, hi, I have a lot of opinions and I share them on the internet. And people hate it. They will call you. And the lady at first was kind of like, what? And I'm like, they will call you. They will report me and say I'm doing all these crazy things. Just before you do anything with my license, just let me know. And I will try to set that record straight. And very shortly after that, I did get a phone call. They were like, we had a note on your file that like people might call and they are calling. I forget what video I had posted, but like in droves. I was like, yeah, I don't even work here clinically. I work at an online education company. I just maintain my license. So I literally can't do any of the things that they're saying I'm doing. because I do not work clinically at the moment, just call your board of nursing and be like, heads up. Also, other people have done this. I know, like Nurse Scott has had a conversation. He's going to do a whole video about it on his, and some states were much more cool about it. Like California was like, it's fine. It's fine. We got you. Pennsylvania was very confused and grateful, and North Carolina threatened to, where I worked before, which was scarier because I was in practice, many times threatened to take my license away because random internet trolls are like, how can we prove that this is not actually happening? And like made complaints against my license about all sorts of crazy things. And my poor employer had to like vouch for me on all, it was a mess. So just consider those things because people on the internet are crazy, like literally crazy. I'm sure none of you are, but Liz, also this, Mr. Midwife, Liz gets fired from a job, goes back to the same job, and the next day and says, meh. To be fair, that was not a hospital job. That was at Chili's. And my coworker and I decided that even though we got fired, we were just going to come back and pretend we didn't. And it worked. I don't think it works the same in healthcare. I did continue to work there for several years. After I just showed back up, my manager was like, didn't I fire you? I was like, well, anyway, what tables do I have? Just pretend like it doesn't happen. I don't think that's how it works. I don't think that's how it works in the healthcare world. Sarah Larson says, I just joined, but it sounds like someone made a bad choice. 4 people made a bad choice. It's not good. Not good. Let me see. Hospitals already have educational approved social media videos. That's good. I'm glad they're catching on to that. That seems, I don't know why we don't have more social media sponsored PSAs from all sorts of things. I feel like a lot of other countries utilize social media to like get ideas out there, and we do not. We do not. Kate S says, I'm honestly thinking I should thank my midwife for helping me in my time of need. I had a home birth and I was not in my best behavior consistently due to having a baby. I'm sure they would very much appreciate that, but also we don't that's the other thing that comes with it is you're not on your like who's on their best behavior when they're shoving a watermelon out of their hoo-ha or having it cut out of their abdomen. Like that's not a good day, right? Like that would be really weird if you were like very polite. I know very much, I think with both of mine, afterwards to the nurses, I was like, I'm sorry for what I said when things were not good. And they're like, oh, it's okay. You were very, very fine compared to, well, like we've seen some things. The first time, I think she was like, whoa. The second one, I was like, I'm probably like going to be really mean and I'm sorry. She's like, it's fine. Everything's fine. Will C said, I've seen a lot of urgent care versus ER type videos. Doubt they have any impact, but I like the concept. Yeah, I think they're funny. I think the ick videos can be funny when, you're watching them and it's, again, laterally going at things versus punching down. That's not good. Santa says, yeah, but we need videos that don't require a VCR. That's what I mean. A lot of the hospital education videos. Yeah. They're like, hold on, let me find this VCR. Oh man, this CD has so many scratches on it. It won't even play anymore. Dang it. Oh yeah. Jazzy Nurse says, I expect all patients to be short and maybe not so nice. It's so stressful. So I get it. That's how I always expected it. I was like, I assume that you're not having a good day. So we're there. Different story. When sometimes I was like annoyed in primary care when people came in and they were just like mean. It was like a checkup. I'm like, literally, friend, we see each other like every few months. Like, we're not even doing anything mean. I'm not giving you any shots. I'm not doing a pap smear. Like, why are you being mean to me? But other than that, I expect people when I encounter them in healthcare to not be having their best day, right? Nurse Liz, RN, MSN, FNP, if any, professional gaslighter of Chili's managers. Oh, to be fair, speaking of getting fired, the manager that fired me was later fired himself for being photographed inappropriately consuming alcohol with a underage employee. As I'm saying this, I'm like, can I? It's been 15 years. I'm sure we can talk about it. Underage employee while acting inappropriate with the young woman. He was a older gentleman, and he got fired for that. So he did not show up the next day in that situation. It was a big yikes. Also, looking back, I got hired for that job that I was just the whole situation. Chili's, I'm like, what an interesting period in my life. I literally, this is a tangent and I'm sorry, people hate it whenever I go on these tangents in the comments. They're like, oh my gosh, stop giving tangents. And my new response to that is just in bold. I'm like, never. But anyway, thanks for being here for the rambles. I applied. In hindsight, it all makes sense because I was like, how did I get this job? Because I lived in an area where it was kind of harder. There were a lot of young kids, right, that needed jobs. And I got a job that I was like a hostess at a restaurant, but there was like a stack of resumes. Like I knew a lot of people were applying here. And I was, I think, just 17, which was how young, or maybe I was 16. I don't know. I was whatever the youngest one you could be in order to have a job in Southern California. And naively, I was like, how did I get this job? I have zero experience. And my availability was awful, like for a restaurant job. I applied in my bathing suit with this person, which in hindsight made a lot of sense. I was like, oh yeah, I literally dropped my resume off after going to the beach and I was in like a bikini with like a spaghetti strap cover up. Did not think twice about it because I was naive and stupid and 16. And then was shocked when I got hired. And in hindsight, I was like, oh, this whole thing, this just makes a lot more sense. Like I see it now. And then later he was fired for that. Yeah, sounds like Chili's. Yeah. So past choices by Liz. Past choices. Mr. Midwife, be careful how you say older gentleman. Here we would be talking about a 16-year-old girl and what was probably at the time 60-something-year-old person. So not, I wouldn't say that's old, but an older gentleman compared to a 16-year-old who you should probably not be hanging out with in such ways, doing certain things. Some choices are made, choices, some might say. But I met Joe, my husband, at that job. So, if I had not been an oblivious, sir, this is a Chili's, not a Hooters. Would not have known the way Liz walked in, 16-year-old Liz. And I was like so oblivious. Like it did not even cross my mind. I was just literally like, oh, I'm driving home from the beach. I am passing this Chili's that I previously picked up an application for. You know what would be a good idea if I dropped it off right now? Time savings. My parents would be so proud of me. They'd be like, wow, look at you saving time. Didn't even go home to change. Interviewed me on the spot. They were like, yep. There we go. Life lessons to teach my children. Oh my goodness. I would be more afraid of an adult that can comfortably see a minor that way. Oh yeah, for sure. It was Creeper City. You don't work at Chili's and expect, well, now looking back, I know that. Don't work at Chili's and expect upstanding, wonderful members of society. Don't let your daughters, don't let your sons, don't let anyone you love that is young work at Chili's. But again, having children is so scary. Exactly. I will find something for mine to do. Actually, my neighbor is opening a store in town. And so I was like, this is perfect. I will, in a few years, you can go work at this store that I know the owners of. I'm going to know everyone. It's great. It's great. We will have that. Also, who said, Kate, thanks for becoming a member. Welcome. Enjoy the Discord where we have chats and sometimes other things, but I appreciate you supporting me on the YouTubes so I can rant about my poor past choices. Here we are. Yeah, what if they make the mistakes I made? Yeah, there's going to be some interesting conversations ahead. Some very interesting conversations, candid conversations with mom. hey, sweet daughter, just in case you were ever trying to think of doing this. And they'll be like, what is that? I'm like, well, one day. Don't do it. Don't do it. Um, wear clothes when you go into a job interview. And if they interview you on the spot for a job you are not qualified for, it does not mean they can sense your brilliance, child. That's not what that means. It's just simply not. Oh, I just realized my membership badge was showing it had expired. Oh, well, thanks. Yes, there should be fun emojis. I have more that are coming. I made them a few more on Canva because if you're a member, you get like, like fun little emojis you can use. And then I somehow deleted all of my Canva files that had all the pictures. So that's good. So there we are. All right. Well, that ended once again on a very different note than I had anticipated. Very different tone than we started with. Well, kid, it may run in your family. This is why the universe made me trans. Baby fever would have gotten me and I'd be in a rough situation. Everything can be explained. Aurelia, everything. You can explain everything the way I figure, I got a good heads up of what I'm facing. Like we can tackle this. We can tackle this together. Thank you, Chili's, for exposing me to a whole wide world that otherwise I might not have known existed. But yes, let me see. So that's where we are. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. If you're watching this on the replay, I hope that you feel free to share your thoughts and we can continue the conversation there. Ultraviolet said, I hope you all understand how deeply this affects all patients. Yes. And I think it spans like beyond labor and delivery. I agree. And how much more it will affect the patients that ultimately need your care the most. Yeah. So just being respectful, being super respectful, not saying things that you would not say at their bedside, right? That's a pretty good litmus test in general. Is if I wouldn't say this in front of them, maybe I shouldn't say it on TikTok, right? And, have the conversations just behind doors. There is the power imbalance here. This is patients are vulnerable to you, right? You are not on equal playing ground. I also thought about this when I was thinking earlier, I was like, this is like your child, right? Not that they're your children, but like you cannot speak to make fun of people like you would make fun of your spouse. You wouldn't make an ick video about your child. There is a power imbalance there, just like there's a power imbalance here. It's a great litmus test. Thank you. That's what I always told all of my baby nurses once I kind of figured out my life a little bit more. Not in the beginning, like I said, made plenty of mistakes, but if you wouldn't say it in front of them in bedside report, probably shouldn't say it to them on the internet. So, Ultraviolet, I'm having brain surgery next week and the stress and fear of having to go through this is enough. I shouldn't have to be worried about my nurses making TikToks about me, but here I am. Oh, that is stressful. I hope it goes okay. I hope you have the best nurses. Know that most of them are not out there making TikToks and most people, nurses did get into this because they would like to help. And I hope you have the people who have the resources and the availability to do so, and that you have someone that's going with you. Do you have someone that's going with you? Also, do let us know how it goes. Always, 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 biggest advice, bring someone with you in the hospital if you can so they can watch you. But I really hope that it goes very, very well. Yes, lots of love from the chat on your surgery. Yes, I hope that goes okay. That's stressful. Nate, I guess we'll answer a few more questions. I thought we were ending on our Chili's rant, and then we came back around. I appreciate you, Mr. Midwife. Thanks for being here. I'll see you on Friday. I haven't figured out our topic yet. I know you're shocked. This episode is sponsored by Chili's. I totally would. Joe and so my husband and I met at Chili's, obviously. Well, not obviously, but I said it earlier. And that Chili's, actually, we've worked at two because we just couldn't get enough. And we go every year on our anniversary. It's just getting grosser. Every year we're like, is this going to be the year where we stop doing this because we're worried about getting food poisoning or everything being microwaved? Don't know. And then we judge it hardcore, but then we're like, wow, looking back, like it's all in our minds, we feel like it's getting worse. No, Chili's has always been a certain level. If you love Chili's, you go you. I'm sure your Chili's is great. Um, I'll have to watch the repeat. Great live. Oh, thanks for being here. Repeat is great because you can watch it on way faster. At least that's how I watch all of my YouTube. Uh, it's like kind of painful when I catch someone's actual live because I want to talk with them in the comments, but I also really just want to listen to them on like 2 times speed. Got things to do, got places to be. Sorry, I bopped you. Nate said, do you think the nurses will have any trouble finding another job after this? I think there's a pretty high demand for labor and delivery nurses. I heard, who knows if it's true, that some of them already did get jobs. I don't know. I think if they knew why they got fired, it might be kind of awkward, but also they really need nurses. So there's that. The career was definitely like, they were definitely saying things that were uncalled for. The nurses were saying the fathers have multiple babies. Yeah, there was just a lot of like, we really just didn't need to call that out and say something about that, because really, what are you going to do about, like, it doesn't matter. One, it's just like, it's just unkind, and two, what are you going to do about that now? What are we doing? What are we doing there? um oh, good, your partner's gonna be there. Perfect. Good. This is in regards to the surgery. Good. Always need people there with you in the hospital, especially now that nurses are a little bit stretched thin, right? I think that's putting it mildly. It's helpful to have someone there just to do the little things for you so that you don't have to call about everything. You can have someone advocating for you when you're, not feeling your best, because you don't need to be feeling your best or being your best self in these situations, right? You are allowed to not feel good. That should not be exploited on the internet. Michaela said most nurses don't have time to make TikToks at work. Instead, they're trying to keep their head above water and not drown in the process of providing care. Yes. Maybe you guys should do a Chili's and chat on Friday. Oh, that might be a fun idea, to just do like a low key, no topic, see where it goes. That could get frightening. I don't know. What do you think? Let me know if you're still here. Would like a general Q&A with the panel be interesting? Would that be fun? A general Chili's and chat. I need to write down that name. Chili's and chat. Chili's and chat. To have just kind of like a low key positive one. I've been trying to do a few of those on Fridays because it's just been a lot. And I feel like with like Christmas coming up, I'm like, I don't. Ugh. Oh, Kimberly, the chips and salsa at Chili's, amazing. I like literally lived on just those. I don't know how I'm alive today. I literally lived on chips and salsa and their ranch and French fries, because their French fries dipped in their ranch. So good, for years. And then I got a job at the Cheesecake Factory, where I purely like lived off of bread and cheesecake. And yeah, I survived. Like, how was that my diet? How was that even? I was literally surviving. I was working at the Cheesecake Factory when I was in my accelerated nursing program, and I would do my accelerated nursing program Monday through Thursday, classes and clinical. And then Friday through Sunday, I did doubles. So I worked from like 10 or 11 a.m. to midnight or 1 a.m. for 3 days in a row. And then it would just repeat. And I'm pretty sure I survived on bread, cheesecake, and spite. Just pure spite. But we're here. We are here. Yes. Jazzy, I watch LawTube on 2 times speed. Lawyers are dally. Yes. LawTube. Love LawTube. Learned so much, which is helpful that, someday I'm sure I will need to know all these random lawyer things, but 2 times speed. Got to do it. Everyone except for Rick Hogue, who already talks fast. And I take it as like a personal affront that I can't listen on 2 times speed for him. I have to be at like 1.5, and anything else hurts my brain. I feel offended. I'm like, one day I'll get there. Kimberly said, yeah, everyone's desperate for nurses. So no, I don't think they'll have a hard job. He said, Kate, Lord, I already paid my $50 for my microwave food to be delivered to my family. No better, do better. Chili sometimes does hit the spot. And there is a time and a place for that kind of nostalgia food. I hope it is delicious. I so hope it is delicious. Career. Yes. Chili's environment, I must advise, because you're a real last baby. Yeah. More labor and delivery things that are, yeah, rough and sad. Okay. I vote yes. Good. We have one vote. Um, uh, was I following Dave Ramsey? Just kidding. No, no. I was just, that was free. Chips and salsa was free. And right. And fries were free and bread was free. And actually the Cheesecake Factory gave you a free meal if you worked a double. So I did have like some sustenance in there somewhere. I don't like Dave Ramsey as a human. I don't like Dave Ramsey as his mentality. If you do, good for you. But no, I don't like his attitude of surviving on beans and rice when I've talked about him before in like some of my like repaying student loan videos where I'm like, I worked really hard for a long time. I'm gonna like live a little, right? I'm gonna like live a little and go from there. We're talking about bottomless margaritas. Can't do that anymore. Can't do that anymore. Cannot do that anymore. Bad things that happen. Um, Dave Ramsey, Gordon Ramsay's baby brother. I do not think they're not related, right? Right. Well, Mr. Midwife, as the sole person of the panel here, you vote aye. So I guess that's what we're doing. Because you're here. We get to have carbs for the brain. Yes. So yeah. Okay. Ultraviolet, I hope your surgery goes well. And everyone else, we'll see you maybe on Friday. Thanks for coming to our chat. Yeah, I don't post things on social media that you wouldn't say in front of your patients. Yeah, we can be better than that, and it's rough. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for being respectful. This went very well. I was a little bit nervous, but as always, you guys always, the academy always pulls through and is great. Like Norelli said, you can do the hard things. Drink the margaritas. Do those correlate? Is it because you drink the margaritas that you can do the hard things? Now, when I drink margaritas, I just get like so, so tired. We had a girls' night. Oh my gosh, this is the most Midwest goodbye ever. Anyway, we had a girls' night at my neighbor's house the other night, and we were having like margaritas and tacos. Legit, like we made it. We had the mix, like a lot of things for a lot of margaritas. We got 1.5 in. It was like maybe 9 p.m. We started at 7, and we were all like, so I got to go home. Like I was the first loser. And I'm the youngest too. I was like, I have to go home to my bed. I was like, this was too much. I can't do this. So yes, there we go. Thanks for being here, friends. But wait, this stream's not over. I just learned about the Midwest goodbye. There we are. ADHD, be like, someone say bye. Here's 12 more thoughts. All right, friends, for real, goodbye. Have a lovely evening. Know, my friends, that you are not alone. You are more than enough, and you can do the hard things. I'll see you next time. Bye, friends. Do the compressions on the like button. Thanks, friends. Oh, we have an outro screen. Let's put it up. Boo, boo.